Our modern world hums with electricity. It's the unseen force that powers our homes, our communication, our very way of life. We flick a switch and expect light. We open the refrigerator and find fresh food. We turn on our phones and connect instantly with the world. This reliance on electricity is so deeply ingrained that we rarely acknowledge its presence. It's simply there, a silent partner in our daily routines. But what happens when this silent partner disappears? When the hum of electricity fades into an unsettling silence? The reality is that our dependence on the power grid makes us incredibly vulnerable. A prolonged blackout, lasting not hours but days, weeks, or even months, would be catastrophic. It would test the very fabric of our society, pushing us to our limits and forcing us to confront the fragility of our existence. While it's easy to dismiss the idea of a long-term power outage as something out of a dystopian novel, the truth is that the possibility is more real than we might think. Our increasingly complex and interconnected world is vulnerable to a range of threats, both natural and man-made. Understanding these vulnerabilities is the first step in preparing for a future where the lights may not come back on as quickly as we've come to expect. The electric grid, a marvel of modern engineering, is surprisingly fragile. Its very complexity, designed to efficiently distribute power over vast distances, makes it susceptible to a variety of threats. These threats can be broadly categorized as natural disasters, technical failures, and malicious attacks. Natural disasters like hurricanes, earthquakes, and solar flares can cripple the infrastructure of the grid, knocking out power lines, transformers, and generating stations. The impact of such events can be widespread and long-lasting, requiring extensive repairs before power can be restored. Technical failures, often stemming from aging infrastructure or inadequate maintenance, can also lead to cascading blackouts. A single point of failure, if not isolated quickly, can ripple through the interconnected grid, causing widespread outages. Perhaps the most concerning threat comes from malicious actors. Cyber attacks designed to disrupt or disable critical infrastructure have become increasingly sophisticated. A well-coordinated cyber attack on the power grid could plunge entire regions into darkness, with potentially devastating consequences. Similarly, physical attacks on key grid components could also lead to widespread outages. The potential causes of a prolonged blackout are numerous, and the consequences are dire. Understanding these risks is not about succumbing to fear, but about fostering a healthy respect for the forces that shape our world. It's about acknowledging our vulnerabilities and taking steps to mitigate them, to build resilience into our lives and communities. The initial hours of a blackout are deceptive. There's a sense of unreality, an almost festive atmosphere as people gather on porches and sidewalks, united by a shared experience. The lack of electricity is an inconvenience, a novelty. We pull out candles, dust off board games, and share stories by the fading light of day. But as darkness falls, the mood begins to shift. The absence of electric lights reveals a darkness most of us have never truly experienced. The hum of refrigerators and air conditioners is replaced by an unsettling silence. The constant flow of information from our televisions, computers, and phones comes to an abrupt halt. The invisible tether that connects us to the outside world has been severed. As the hours turn into days, the initial novelty wears off, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The realization that this is not a temporary outage, that the lights may not come back on anytime soon, begins to sink in. Supermarket shelves, once overflowing with food, are picked clean. Gas stations run dry as people wait in long lines to fill their vehicles. The routines and rhythms of daily life are disrupted, replaced by a growing sense of uncertainty and fear. By the end of the first week, the reality of the situation has settled in. The initial shock and disbelief have given way to a grim acceptance of the new reality. The power grid, once considered an unshakable pillar of modern life, is gone, and with it, the illusion of security and comfort it provided. The lack of electricity begins to impact every aspect of daily life. Refrigerators stop working, spoiling perishable food. Water pumps fail, cutting off access to running water. Communication networks go down, isolating people from loved ones and sources of information. Hospitals struggle to function as backup generators run out of fuel. As the initial shock subsides, the focus shifts to survival. People begin to realize that they are on their own. Help, if it comes at all, will not be immediate. Those who have prepared for such an eventuality, stocking up on food, water, and other essential supplies, are at an advantage. Others, caught unprepared, face a stark choice: adapt or succumb. Month 1. Adaptation and the rise of resourcefulness. Survival in the face of prolonged adversity demands adaptation. As the first month of the blackout draws to a close, the initial chaos begins to subside, replaced by a sense of grim determination. People, forced to confront their vulnerabilities, begin to adapt to their new reality. The search for resources, food, water, shelter, and security, becomes paramount. Those who were once strangers band together, forming small, self-sufficient communities. Skills that were once taken for granted, like gardening, canning, and basic first aid, become highly valued. The reliance on technology gives way to a rediscovery of traditional methods of sustenance and survival. The breakdown of law and order, while a real concern, is often overstated in post-apocalyptic scenarios. While there are always those who exploit chaos for personal gain, history has shown that in times of crisis, human beings are more likely to cooperate than to turn on each other. The instinct to help others, to rebuild and restore, is often stronger than the urge to loot and plunder. Beyond 30 days community, the cornerstone of survival. As weeks turn into months, the importance of community becomes increasingly apparent. Isolated individuals or families are far more vulnerable than those who have joined forces with others. Community provides security, both in terms of physical safety and the sharing of resources and skills. Communities that thrive are those that are built on trust, cooperation, and a shared sense of purpose. They establish clear rules and hierarchies, ensuring that resources are distributed fairly and that everyone contributes to the collective good. They also recognize the importance of maintaining morale and hope, finding ways to foster a sense of normalcy and optimism in the face of adversity. The collapse of the power grid, while a catastrophic event, also has the potential to bring out the best in humanity. It forces us to confront our vulnerabilities, to reassess our priorities, and to rediscover the importance of human connection and community. It reminds us that our strength lies not in our technology or our material possessions, but in our resilience, our adaptability, and our capacity for compassion. 6 months later, a world transformed. 6 months without power, 6 months of hardship, loss, and uncertainty. The world has been irrevocably transformed. The once bright lights of cities are extinguished, replaced by the flickering glow of campfires and oil lamps. The constant hum of traffic has given way to the sound of birdsong and the wind rustling through the trees. The air, once thick with pollution, is now clear, revealing a sky teeming with stars. The world is a different place, but it is not necessarily a worse one. The collapse of the power grid has forced a reassessment of values, a return to a simpler, more sustainable way of life. People have rediscovered the importance of community, the value of hard work, and the resilience of the human spirit. There is a rawness to life now, a sense of immediacy that was absent in the pre-blackout world. People are more present, more attuned to the rhythms of nature, more grateful for the simple things. The relentless pursuit of material wealth and technological advancement has been replaced by a focus on basic needs, on survival, on rebuilding. Echoes of the past lessons in resilience. Throughout history, human beings have faced countless challenges, from natural disasters to wars to pandemics. Each of these events has tested our resilience, our capacity to adapt and overcome adversity, and each time we have emerged, changed but not broken. The stories of our ancestors are filled with examples of human resilience. From the survivors of the Great Depression to the refugees of war-torn countries, people have endured unimaginable hardships and emerged stronger. These stories remind us that the human spirit is capable of weathering even the darkest of storms. The lessons of the past are particularly relevant in the aftermath of a catastrophic event like a prolonged blackout. They teach us that survival is not just about physical strength or material resources, but about mental fortitude, adaptability, and the willingness to help others. They remind us that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, there is always hope. Hope in the darkness, the importance of preparedness. While the prospect of a long-term power outage is daunting, it is not insurmountable. The key to surviving such an event lies in preparation. By taking steps now to prepare ourselves, our families, and our communities, we can mitigate the impact of a blackout and increase our chances of not just surviving but thriving. Preparedness is not about succumbing to fear or paranoia. It's about taking practical steps to increase our self-sufficiency and resilience. It's about having a plan, stocking up on essential supplies, learning basic survival skills, and building strong community connections. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The more prepared we are, the better equipped we will be to face whatever challenges lie ahead. By embracing the principles of preparedness, we not only increase our chances of survival, but we also cultivate a sense of agency and hope, reminding ourselves that even in the darkest of times, we are not powerless.